Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the even deeper hole that Rishi Sunak is digging for himself, as it seems his political naivety is even worse than first thought. Rather than act quickly to pour water on the scandal over his financial affairs, he has made such a fuss that now he's been bounced into requesting a formal investigation into himself. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So I've said it before, I'll say it again. I can understand being ruled by intelligent evil overlords. Cannot abide being ruled by stupid evil. Watching Rishi Sunak attempt to manage the financial scandals engulfing him is painful. He's absolutely no idea how to deal with this situation and clearly has not surrounded himself with people who can advise him. He is, of course, a relatively inexperienced politician. He's one of the 2015 cohort that has risen to prominence. The problem with this is that they lack the years of parliamentary experience, learning the wrinkles of politics and so on. But even given his inexperience, he's making an absolute howler. When the tax affairs of his wife were leaked, he could have just said that maybe there's a case to investigate if the rules are really what they should be. Point out that it was all perfectly legal, it's not me that put these laws in place, but maybe, if we have a look at it, it's not quite what people expect, and we should actually, have a look if things need to be changed. Order an investigation to decide whether or not reforms are needed. The investigation would take a year, would conclude that everything is fine, no need to change anything. You'd have taken the sting out of the leaks, you'd have moved on. Obviously, the later news about the green card would have been trickier, but it was bloody stupid to have retained it whilst an MP anyway. Policing Minister Kit Malthouse tried to excuse it by saying that Sunak had it for this reason, but then he just forgot about it. But no, Rishi Sunak had been filling in US tax returns every single year, and his own spokesperson said he deliberately kept it for travel reasons. So Sunak wasn't even getting his excuses sorted out with his co-conspirators. Absolutely shambolic. And this is the man that some Tory MPs want leading their party? I mean, this is why I want him to. I want him in charge of the Conservative Party, but actual Tory MPs wanting him in charge must be off their rockers, or are they just knocked bandy by his wealth? Oh, he's the richest MP there's ever been, of course he must lead us. Then he made it even worse. He insisted that there should be an investigation to find out who leaked the information. Stunningly bad political move, I suppose, for a number of reasons. But first and foremost, there are a lot of investigations that the government needs to carry out, including in his own department, the Treasury. There should be an investigation into how so much money was defrauded from the public purse from the furlough scheme, especially when no one's criticising the furlough scheme. But at the time he introduced it, opposition MPs warned him that the particular way he was implementing it invited fraud. There should be an investigation into similar problems with both COVID services, such as test and trace, and PPE. The government have resisted calls for such inquiries, generally along the lines of, it's not in the public interest, or it would divert resources away from getting the job of government done. Well, arguments that both fall flat on their arse when the Chancellor orders an investigation into who leaks the information. First of all, that investigation is certainly not in the public interest because the leak was entirely true, wasn't false, wasn't defamatory, it was true, and the information leaked was itself in the public interest to know. In fact, it's information that Rishi Sunak should have declared in his own members' interests. Secondly, it would require resources which, if available, could be put to better use investigating what went wrong with the tens of billions of pounds of fraud that the Treasury are ignoring, rather than carrying out a witch hunt. Because that's what this would be. This investigation would be a witch hunt. The person behind the leak will ultimately be either Boris Johnson or Dominic Cummings. My money's on Boris Johnson. But either way, these will not be in the frame. It'll be some junior official that gets clobbered instead. We've seen it before. How these investigations work in Downing Street, we've already seen over the last year. It's the officials who pay for the misdeeds of their political masters. Second reason it's a really bad idea is because it keeps the story in the public eye while the investigation's carried out. Then it'll feature again in the news when the investigation concludes. The way to deal with a political scandal is to make the public lose interest. You know, like I say, you know that the rules were set up by a previous Chancellor. Ideally, you try and blame the opposition when they were in government, if you can. Then you agree that maybe it needs change. We'll have to have a look at it. It's probably very complex, you know. It's not as cut and dry. But absolutely, you know, we can see the public's interested in this. You order an investigation. Such an investigation would be a boring process and a boring conclusion. The news media would go away and find something more interesting to report on. But now he's initiated a whodunit investigation, which will be full of speculation that journalists and commentators can discuss for months to come if they want. Nice one. And now he's been bounced into another investigation. Angela Rayner, who's Labour's deputy leader, but also with special responsibility for sniffing out Tory sleaze, wrote to the Prime Minister on Sunday with a number of queries related to his wayward Chancellor. Rayner asked about Sunak's failure to declare non-dom status, an apparent breach of the ministerial code, his failure to declare his wife's interest in Infosys, a company that has been in receipt of UK government contracts. There's nothing apparent about this. This is a big breach. The ministerial code requires ministers declare all interests of themselves, their partners and close family, where there might even be a potential conflict of interest. If you, as the Chancellor of the Exchequer, fail to declare that your wife has a large stake in a company who is in receipt of public money from your own department, that is a massive conflict of interest. Sunak has basically approved public money going to a company where his wife has a financial interest. Rayner's letter included a lot of issues. I'll link it below, you can read it yourself. There's a lot of them for which there are huge question marks. I can't even summarise them all. Reading it through, and as someone who is used to Conservatives thinking themselves above the rules, I was still astounded at just how careless Sunak had been in his financial dealings, as first an MP and later as Chancellor. You know, all senior politicians fear the skeletons coming out of their closet, but I've never come across a senior politician who has stuffed so many skeletons in their own closet so recklessly. I talked in the last video I did about this. You know, Sajid Javid, another former banker who had non-dom status themselves, and they're coming under scrutiny for that as well. But they dropped it when they decided to become an MP. So they understood that it's not necessarily a great look to have ever had non-dom status, because basically you use that, and he's British, bear in mind. This isn't like Sunak's wife. You know, he's a British citizen, and he still had non-dom status. That's ridiculous. You know, and it's not going to be a good look. But even he knew it'd be an absolutely terrible look if he continued to have it as an MP. You know, Sunak has responded to this by asking the Prime Minister to refer him to Lord Geidt, the supposed independent advisor on ministers' interests, who's not remotely independent, of course. The first sensible move he's actually made during this entire debacle, but one that would not have been necessary if he'd not been so stupid previously. Geidt is the advisor who declared that the Prime Minister had not broken any rules over the unlawful redecoration of his Downing Street flat, based solely on the evidence provided by the Prime Minister. He was then made to look a proper nana when later on the Electoral Commission carried out a proper investigation and found proof that Johnson was lying. Not evidence, proof. Geidt then took a massive dump on what was left of his reputation, and before he had anything to do with Johnson, he had a good reputation. And he failed to learn the lessons that all officials who have anything to do with Boris Johnson, which is they end up looking like massive bellends in public. He took another look at the issue and then still concluded that Boris Johnson had actually not done anything amiss. Despite the funding of that redecoration being declared unlawful, and despite the WhatsApp messages from Boris Johnson making it quite clear he knew what was happening. But that doesn't really matter. All Sunak needs is for Geidt to give him the same treatment. Look carefully at everything, pay attention only to what Sunak tells him, not the facts as known, and declare that Sunak didn't knowingly do anything wrong. Say that, well, actually, on retrospect, he probably should have done this, but he didn't know he was doing anything wrong, despite the proof to the contrary already being publicly available. The question, I suppose, is whether or not Geidt would do this. He did it for Johnson, but Johnson's his boss. Would he do it for Sunak? Especially if Johnson is behind these leaks and wants Sunak brought down. Of course, even if Johnson is behind the leaks, it still depends on whether Johnson just wants to clip Sunak's wings or if he actually wants a change of Chancellor. Rishi Sunak has, after all, said no to Johnson quite a lot about the levelling up funds his election boasts require. Johnson may not mind at all seeing Sunak disgraced, replace him with someone who will loosen the purse strings a bit. In which case Sunak may well be making another political mistake in thinking Geidt will exonerate him, when he may actually damn him. Or does Sunak think he has something big on Johnson to blackmail him with? So many ifs and buts. But however it turns out, Sunak has made a proper arse of this from start to finish. His reputation is in tatters. Until recently. The main reason why he was considered the most likely person to replace Johnson is because he was very, very popular within the wider party. He had some popularity in the parliamentary party, and amongst the public, he was the most popular senior politician in Britain, out of Westminster, on either side of the House. That's both opposition and government benches. Now his approval rating has plummeted. It's still higher than Boris Johnson's, but it's now way lower than Keir Starmer's. Was above it, not anymore. That'll be another worry for Tory MPs that think they're still supporters of Sunak. They can't let him take over when the, let's face it, not exactly charismatic Keir Starmer is more popular than their boy. And this investigation will mean that the whole sordid affair gets dragged on now. There's no doing a thing to kill the story and moving on. That's what you normally do. No, he's made sure that's not happening. It's going to remain in the public conversation for quite a bit now. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.